Every wise woman Proverbs 14. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. He that walketh in his uprightness feareth the Lord, but he that is perverse in his ways despiseth him. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox. A faithful witness will not lie, but a false witness will utter lies. A scorner seeketh wisdom, and findeth it not, but knowledge is easy unto him that understandeth. Go from the presence of a foolish man, when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favour. The heart knoweth his own bitterness, and a stranger doth not intermeddle with his joy. The house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Even in laughter the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is hated even of his own neighbour, but the rich hath many friends. He that despiseth his neighbour sinneth, But he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. Do they not err that devise evil? But mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good. In all labour there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. A true witness delivereth souls, but a deceitful witness speaketh lies. In the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. In the multitude of people is the king's honour, but in the want of people is the destruction of the prince. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. He that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his Maker, but he that honoureth him hath mercy on the poor. The wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous hath hope in his death. Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The king's favour is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him that causeth shame.
Good evening. It's Monday, September 29th, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. Wow. Verse 35, the king's favor is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him that causeth shame. That should say a lot. Wow. If you could teach people that one verse, if you could put that one verse into people today, just that one verse, think of the amazing change that we would have on this planet. Wow. So, I've got a fair amount of news. Going to talk to you a little bit. I ran across a link that I didn't see before I set the news up. Having to do with China's protests that are going on over there. A lot of people probably don't even know about the protests going on over in China. Absolutely huge protests. Thousands and thousands of people protesting. I do believe it's the elections that are coming up. Something to do with they were promised to have like an open election, I guess more or less, to where anybody could run for office, and then I guess at the last minute they changed the rules and more or less said that only they can more or less say who is running, and then I guess the people get to vote. It seems like a failed attempt at democracy is what's going on over there, and the people are upset about it. And anyway, so I've got a story about that after we get done with Suspicious Observers. And then I'll talk to you a little bit. I have no links about what went on in Ferguson the last 2 or 3 nights. But I will talk about that. I was watching live video of that for the last 2 nights. And it seems like things are ramping up quite a bit over there. Definitely tensions are heavier. I will say that I did not see at this point the escalation with riot police, with the armored vehicles and all that. But I have a feeling that it's probably going to come pretty quick. So, because I don't see really the protesters really backing down at this point. And I don't, the police did back down last night, but we'll get to that in a bit here. Let's go ahead and get Suspicious Observers out of the way, and then we'll go to the news. So without further ado, enjoy.
Good morning, folks. We're now 4 days without a 6 magnitude earthquake. Here are the most interesting rumbles from the past day. But one that you do not see on here is a 4.9 in Peru that turned out to be far more damaging than you would expect. At least 8 are dead and hundreds of homes destroyed. This 96-hour lull is still expected to end as the coronal hole down south becomes Earth-facing and begins our next watch period, expected to last 3 or 4 days. Back at Earth, we're still awaiting the speedy stream from the previous coronal hole in the solar wind. Still got nothing yet. It was a calming day on the sun after the morning's big M flare, whose CME will not be geoeffective. We did take a smaller M1 afterwards, and the big filament remains stable as it begins to turn away from the Earth-facing position. Taking a look at the sunspots, we'll do the right, then the left. Up north, departing, we see the delta spot in the center where positive and negative are mixing. Down south, we see residual mixing a bit, but much was cleared away by the M flares yesterday. Incoming up north, I spy a delta candidate that NOAA has yet to recognize, and spots down south are a bit disappointing, I must say. Still may be more coming. So we've been watching Venus come in for solar conjunction, but we're actually going to have one before this. Venus takes its time creeping in, but Mercury does not. The innermost planet flies around the star and will actually swing in first. After that, Mercury will conjoin Venus on its way out, and only after that do we see Venus finally come in for conjunction. Today's top story is about the North Sea salinity. Turns out the Arctic melt has absolutely nothing to do with the salinity changes. It's all about the Gulf Stream driven from the south. And while we're talking about the polar ice, let's get an update. In 2012, we set an all-time record minimum for the Arctic ice. And while we cannot confuse surface ice with total volume, it is noteworthy that at this time we are literally 50% recovered from that record low in just 2 years. This, of course, comes as the Antarctic ice remains above record surface ice levels despite the volcanic melting of the underside, and the peak hit nearly a week ago, smashing records. For more on how these and other things fit into the climate story, just click my name anywhere on this page to pull up the channel site. Scroll down to find our playlists. I do recommend them all, but the third one down should be our climate change playlist. Tropics Watch sees Rachel still staggering off the coast of Baja. Meanwhile, the M flares produced yet another Uyen candidate in the west as Kamuri leaves. It doesn't look like Fanfone will be able to miss Japan. Eyes open there. Back in the States, we've got this deceptively powerful low-pressure system that has churned up floods from Arizona to Utah and has dropped some pretty significant hail on the north and western portions of the wind drive. Quite a bit of damage from these relatively large ice balls. There is more hail and snow likely on the backside of that low, while the leading east edge will continue to produce severe storm warnings along the northern flow. Western winds off the Atlantic still a factor in the southeast. In Europe, 2 lows in the North Sea and North Atlantic. We're also eyeing a flow onto the southwestern nations from the Mediterranean. That's where we find our weather watches for this evening. They are in purple. Down under, we see a convergence shooting atop the North Island of New Zealand once more, and something else relevant is the flow at the southeastern part of Australia. The rain sticks with the Kiwis, but the high wind gusts in the southeastern part of Australia are likely the more dangerous scenario. The Mobile Observatory Project comes to Kansas City today. See observatoryproject.com for details. We've got a couple miscellaneous notes from the latest global state of the climate graph. And even though HelioViewer is still lagging, we've got some shots of our star to close. Enjoy the calm while it lasts at 6:20 a.m. Eastern Time, 5:20 a.m. Central. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
And thanks to Ben Davison with Suspicious Observers. The link's down in the About tab as usual. Boy, they're carrying on with this climate change thing, and they've got a lot of people to back them up with the protests on Wall Street, well, over in New York. I don't want to just say on Wall Street. It makes it sound like Occupy Wall Street. But, yeah, it's absurd. It really is. They're succeeding with a lot of people in pushing their agenda, even though all the data and facts show a much different story. And unless something major happens, they're going to get what they want. You know, they're going to get all the taxes, the regulations, and everything else that they're trying to enforce, because they've got a plenty amount of people that are supporting it, that are just they refuse to dig and get the information, to get the facts, and they just, I call it the Twitter world, is what I call it, because it's like there's a large population of people that don't think any deeper than the 165 character or whatever limit that Twitter will allow you to send in a message. And it's just like, there's a lot of things that sound good on the surface, and there's a lot of things that, if you just, I mean, you could explain anything away with just a couple sentences and make sense of it. But it's when you get into the heart of it, when you really investigate, when you really research, that you find out what truly makes things tick, or how things work. And I mean, I could sit here, I'm well versed in automotive. I could sit here, I can simply tell you that an engine takes three things to run. It takes ignition, it takes fuel, and it takes compression. It takes those three things to run. And I could sit there and tell you all kinds of things from there, and that are untrue, and make it sound just off of what I told you like it makes sense. Mechanics do it all the time. They do it all the time when they scam customers, all the time. But yeah, I mean, you could say, for instance, I don't know, compression's low. I could tell you this. I could tell you this with certainty. I could tell you, well, we did a cylinder leakage test on your engine, and it's far from 100%. So we're going to need to put a new set of rings in your engine, basically rebuild your engine. And people would accept that, and I wouldn't be lying, but I'm also not telling the full truth. There is no such thing as 100% in a cylinder leakage test. It's just not going to happen. You can't achieve that. It's not feasible. It's not possible. It's not. I mean, you would have your rings, your compression rings on your piston would have to be made out of rubber, and your valves would have to have rubber seats, and of course that would melt with the high temperatures. But anyway, if you're not into automotive, you may not understand that. But what I'm getting at is I could just tell you a base little thing like that, and cost you over $1,000, or maybe over $2,000, or maybe even more in repair costs, because I may have told a fact, but I didn't really tell the whole thing. Yeah,